Hey everyone, today we are going to be talking about the meaning of ratios and how to write different ratios, how to explain what they mean, and then the different ways of writing them. We're going to talk about two types of ratios. We're going to talk about part-to-part ratios and we're going to talk about part-to-whole ratios. We're going to start with part-to-part. So we're comparing two parts of the same whole versus comparing part of it to the entire whole. So order matters. Every single time we write a ratio, the order that you write the ratio in does matter. In this particular example that we're going to start with, we're talking about making lemonade. And it says for every 2 cups of lemon juice, there are 7 cups of water. So those would be two things that make up lemonade. So lemonade would be our whole, but right now we're talking about the lemon juice and the water. For ratio notation, notice that the 2 comes first or is listed on top, and the 7 comes second or is listed on the bottom because that is the order of the ratio. We can use a colon, the word to, or a fraction to represent ratios. Okay, so those are our 3 different things over here. In this first example, we're going to talk about what is the information in the problem and what is it asking us to do with that information. So here I'm going to use 2 different color highlighters to talk about the information and the action sentence. So we're going to read the sentence and we're going to decide if it tells us to do anything, and we're going to say what it asks us to do. So it says there are 8 girls and 10 boys in Mrs. Watson's math class. That sentence does not ask us to actually do anything. So I'm going to say no, it's just information. And we're going to call this the information sentence. There are 8 girls and 10 boys in Mrs. Watson's math class. Now I'm going to read the next sentence. It says write the ratio of boys to girls in Mrs. Watson's math class in simplest form. Writing a ratio is an action. It's what we're supposed to do with the information. So we're going to say yes, it asks us to do something and it asks us to write a ratio. And this is going to be called the action sentence. Now, at this point, I'm going to highlight because I'm going to use the same colors as I go through all of this. So I'm going to use yellow for info. So yellow is going to be my information sentence and blue is going to be my action sentence. So as I do the next examples, I'm going to use yellow for information, blue for action. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write the ratio. So I'm actually going to do that. And the first thing that I'm going to do when I'm writing my ratio is I am going to read that action sentence again, and I'm going to make note of which order they would like the ratio in. So it says write the ratio of boys to girls in Mrs. Watson's class in simplest form. So when I write my ratio, I'm going to write it in words first. So boys to girls. Once I have that action sentence written out as a ratio in words, I'm going to go back to my information sentence. So it says there are 8 girls and 10 boys in Mrs. Watson's math class. But in my ratio, the boys have to come first, so I'm going to put 10 on top and 8 on the bottom. Now I'm going to look at 10 over 8 and I'm going to say, can this be simplified? Because they want it in simplest form. Well, yes, 10 and 8 can be simplified. They do have something in common. So 8 is 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. 8 does not go into 10, 4 does not go into 10, but 2 does go into 10, so 2 times 5 is 10. So I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 2, and I get 5 over 4. Now at this point, a main question that is asked is, do we write this as a mixed number or do we leave it as an improper fraction? Because we are talking about a comparison, we are comparing 2 things, 2 parts, we are going to leave it as an improper fraction so that we can explain what it means. So down here at the bottom it says explain the meaning, and it says for every blank there are blank. And in a part-to-part ratio, we're talking about a comparison of 2 parts. So for every something of this part, there is or are something of this part. So I'm going to say for every 5 boys, there are not 3, 4 girls. Okay. So I've got my ratio, I wrote it in words, I used the numbers from the information sentence, I simplified the fraction, and then I explained what it meant using the simplified fraction. Okay, and so now I'm going to do number 2. Number 2 says Mrs. Nichols has 20 students in her third hour. 12 of them wore PJs yesterday. That is all information. Mrs. Nichols has 20 students and 12 of them wore PJs yesterday. My action sentence is write the ratio of students who didn't wear PJs to students that wore PJs in simplest form. So I've highlighted my information in my action sentence. So now I'm going to use my action sentence. Write the ratio of students who didn't wear pajamas to students that wore pajamas. So I'm going to say did not over did. Now in this particular question, it tells me how many of them did, so I'm going to put that in the correct spot. So 12 of them wore pajamas. But then it tells me that I had 20 students in math class. So Mrs. Nichols has 20 students, so I have to figure out how many of them did not wear pajamas. So 20 minus 12 is equal to 8 did not wear pajamas. So 8 is going to go on top of this fraction. So I'm going to simplify my fraction. So 8 is 1 times 8, 2 times 4. 8 does not go into 12. 4 does go into 12. So 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to divide each of these by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. So there's my simplified fraction. And now I'm going to use this sentence right here, but I'm going to change out the 5 boys and the 4 girls for 2 wore PJs, or 2 did not wear PJs and 3 did. So for every 2 students that did not wear pajamas, there are 3 students that did. Okay. This sentence is a little bit longer because they were asking me to compare different information. So they're talking about students that did wear pajamas or did not wear pajamas. So my sentence is a little bit longer, but these 2 pieces, this for every and there are the same. I took them from up here. So for every and there are, and then I had to insert the correct information about my ratio. Okay. This is part to part. Now we're going to talk about part to whole. So I'm going to do a separate video for the examples on part to whole ratios.